This is the CBS Evening News. Bob Schieffer sitting in tonight for Dan Rather. Good evening. Well, George Bush said he'd get a bounce in the polls from the Republican convention, and he got a big one. A new CBS News poll released tonight shows Bush now leading Michael Dukakis by 6 points, which means a swing of more than 20 points since the conclusion of the Democratic convention. The poll also shows that Bush's running mate could be a serious liability. Bruce Morton has our report.
You know those polls I never used to like to talk about?
You can see why he's smiling. Our latest poll, conducted over the weekend, shows that if the election were held today, George Bush would beat Michael Dukakis 46-40. That's a very big swing from when we asked the question before the Republican convention. Dukakis led then 50-33.
Nobody ever asked any questions about whether or not Lloyd Bentsen would be qualified to be president of the United States.
The poll shows Bush could be in trouble over his choice of Indiana Senator Quayle as his running mate. But for Bush himself, off his strong convention performance, the numbers are good.
My friends, I am that man.
Bush leads Dukakis, as we said. He's even with Dukakis among women voters. He improves a lot with young voters. 39% of our sample had a favorable opinion of Bush, 25% unfavorable. The first time this year his positives have been higher than his negatives. Would our voters have confidence in Bush's ability to deal with an international crisis? Yes, 51-37. Again, a big change from before the convention, when voters were uneasy about both Bush and Dukakis in a crisis. One reason may be that President Reagan's approval rating is up 58%, the highest since the Iran-Contra affair. And the better Reagan does, the better Bush does.
Out of the convention, each candidate, each party is going to get a bounce. I think what is key is what is going to linger in the voters' minds out of each convention.
Indiana National Guard, 6 years, I'm proud of it.
Which of the two vice presidential candidates would be better at that job? Our sample picked Democratic Senator Lloyd Bentsen by a sizable margin. Is Bentsen experienced enough to take over as president? Our sample said yes by almost 2-1. Is Quayle? No, by more than 2-1. 33% of our sample was glad Bush had picked Quayle, but more people wished he'd picked somebody else. Veterans were a little more negative about Quayle than the rest of our sample. And about half our voters thought he'd joined the National Guard so as to avoid the draft. 29% said he did it for some other reason.
Bush drove those numbers about as hard and as far favorably as anyone would have expected with or without Dan Quayle or anyone else.
So our poll shows that George Bush got the lift he'd hoped for from the convention, but it also shows that Republican worries about his running mate are real. One other note, Bob, polls bounce around a lot in the summer when people are on vacation, and the numbers may go up and down considerably between now and November.
Even so, Bruce, a swing of more than 20 points is extraordinary. I mean, is that to be believed, do you suppose?
Well, it is extraordinary. Polls are always volatile in the summer, and what it probably says, Bob, is that a lot of people just really haven't made their minds up, don't feel very strongly yet about either one of these men.
Thank you, Bruce. Bush made an emotional defense of his running mate today before what could have been a hostile audience of veterans, but he got a rousing reception, so rousing that Quayle flew to Chicago to say thanks tonight. Eric Engberg begins our coverage.
George Bush chose a convention of the veterans of foreign wars in Chicago to try to shove aside the controversy over Dan Quayle's military record that has stalled the Republican campaign. Bush set the scene.
First, I salute the Vietnam veterans here today, those who fought in the rice paddies.
But Bush argued there are other ways to serve and charged that Quayle is the victim of, quote, shrill partisan attacks.
So let his attackers cast the first stone. Let them cast it. He served honorably. True, he didn't go to Vietnam, but his unit wasn't sent. But there's another truth. He did not go to Canada. He did not burn his draft card. And he damn sure didn't burn the American flag. And I'm proud to have him at my side.
The audience rose to applaud, and Bush appeared relieved. He avoided one central issue to the controversy. Did Quayle use family influence to get into the Guard? Bush did assert strongly for the first time that vacancies had existed in Quayle's unit. Initial reviews were mostly favorable.
He served his time, and if they would have got called, he'd have went to Vietnam.
A lot of the guys would have done that if they could have. The fact that he went on to school, got his law degree, and then went into service for the country. What's the problem with that?
I have a certain amount of resentment for the people who, for whatever reason, were able to avoid service in Vietnam.
As Bush toured a VA hospital, the campaign was scurrying to book Quayle to speak to the VFW too. It became clear that George Bush, an old Navy veteran, had served as a minesweeper for his running mate. Eric Engbert, CBS News, Chicago.
With word that Bush had received a friendly reception at the VFW convention, Quayle abruptly changed plans and headed to Chicago tonight to address the same group. Earlier today, to the dismay of some Bush campaign strategists who thought he was back in Washington for private consultations, Quayle hit the morning TV shows, where he was grilled more about the use of family connections to get into the National Guard and law school.
Well, I think the critical question is, were any rules broken? No. Did we ask any rules to be bent? No. Was there anything other than getting into the military or the law school fair? The answer is yes. It was all fair.
The continued personal questioning clearly did not please the candidate's wife. After a brief meeting with his Senate staff, the beleaguered Republican vice presidential candidate went to a Washington hotel to attend what some aides had described as a 3-day candidate school.
We're just sitting down strategizing how we're going to take this campaign to the people, jobs, opportunity, maintaining the peace, and how we can win this election.
But between his family, friends, and the media, Quayle has been having trouble getting to those main issues. His father was first to confirm that the senator had a poor academic record and had to talk his way into law school.
I'm not saying he's a brilliant scholar, and he can't do it, but he can probably do it. I mean, he can do it, I guess. He's been able to be successful in everything he's undertaken from the day he started riding a bicycle.
And to compound all this injury, a radio station back home in Indiana today came up with its rendition of Quayle's National Guard record.
I spent the war in Indiana. Getting shot was not for me. I never went to Nam. I never
Bill Jones, CBS News, Washington.
Only watched it on TV.
Getting back to the poll, when reporters asked Dukakis about it today, he said he'd just keep talking about the economy. And as he has since the controversy over Quayle began, he again sought to steer as much attention as possible to his own running mate. More on that now from Bill Whitaker.
Fighting to reverse his slip in the polls, Michael Dukakis called on voters today to compare his choice of a running mate with George Bush's.
This is a judgment the American people will have to make. They've had an opportunity now to watch Mike Dukakis make this selection and to watch George Bush make his selection.
Dukakis took another shot at the Quayle selection in an appearance in Lowell, Massachusetts, a city whose economic revival Dukakis points to as proof of his Massachusetts miracle. As he travels across the country, Dukakis pitches economic rebirth as the cornerstone of his campaign.
So my friends, this election is not about fancy economic theories and meaningless labels. It's about good jobs at good wages.
But it's a vague message and one that seems to fly in the face of reality. Not only is Lowell, Massachusetts booming, but under the Reagan administration, the nation has seen its longest economic expansion since World War II.
But polls show that while the public is happy with the present, it's wary of the economic future.
What we have is a very uneven kind of recovery. We have a boom on the coast. We have real hurt in the heartland of this country.
Hi, tell us who you are.
The Dukakis campaign believes the election will turn on character. Which candidate has the strength to steer the nation through uncertainties ahead?
Because this election is not about ideology. It's about competence. Come on, big guy.
Despite the drop in the polls, Dukakis plans to continue pushing his message of character over substance. But it's a risky strategy. He can't count on Republicans handing him a character issue like Dan Quayle every day. Bill Whitaker, CBS News, Lowell.
And still ahead on the CBS Evening News, Poland holds its breath. Bert Quint reports on Solidarity's showdown with the government. And we'll have David Browning on drugs and drinking in the movies. They're not funny anymore.
Hello, my beauty.
Good morning.
Day's looking new and bright.
It's Monday again.
And you're gonna start it right.
Traffic's tied up.
'Cause there's Folgers for you that's decaffeinated too. The best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup.
Mornings brighten with mountain-grown Folgers decaffeinated. Mountain-grown coffee beans have a more enticing aroma.
The best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup.
Decaffeinated.
These days, Americans are eating foods that are low in cholesterol. Or are they? Cooked in butter, even these aren't as cholesterol-free as they could be. That's why there's Butter Flavor Pam Cooking Spray. It has a buttery flavor, yet adds no cholesterol. So you can pick foods that are low in cholesterol and keep them that way. Pam, because how you cook is as important as what you cook.
Post makes the only bran flakes with zip-pack freshness to keep their high-fiber, best taste fresh longer. I zip what I should have do now.
Post natural bran flakes with zip-pack freshness.
Zippity-yay.
When the burning, itching, and soreness of hemorrhoids flare up, Tux medicated pads give you soothing, cooling relief on contact. For hemorrhoid flare-up, get Tux, now with special savings.
The government of Poland called out riot police and troops tonight to try to block a growing wave of strikes. The Interior Minister says that the nation is now facing a specter of anarchy. Earlier today, workers took over the Gdansk shipyard, the second time this year that they've seized the birthplace of the outlawed Solidarity Union. Bert Quint is there, and because of transmission problems, some of the pictures in this report are not up to our usual standards.
Workers wrapped a chain around the gate of the Gdansk shipyard today, turning what had been basically a coal miner strike in southern Poland into a national challenge to the Polish regime. Most of the employees of the Lenin shipyard went to the yard this morning to work, not to strike. But about 1,000 heeded Lech Wałęsa's call for a strike, and that was enough to shut down operations and fill the area with riot police. Enough, too, to encourage those who struck last week to continue holding out against government threats of reprisal. And Solidarity spokesmen say the action here set off a series of new strikes from the Gdansk harbor to plants in every part of the country. The strikes were born of economic desperation, not political calculation. The first demand was for big pay raises, then the legalization of solidarity. Now, once again, solidarity is the overriding issue. The miners are among the most pampered workers in the country because coal brings in more foreign currency than any other export. But even they can't cope with the skyrocketing prices that are basic to Poland's economic reform. There was little public support for last spring's strikes, but now more and more people, like this man, are saying, we can't afford anything. What can we do? Take a gun to the streets? Strikes are the only way. But workers who oppose the strikes, like this miner, say Poland is in poverty already. This will only make it worse. Wałęsa, who said yesterday he really didn't want a strike because it could trigger harsh repression, planned to spend tonight inside the shipyard. The old Solidarity leader said he felt obliged to support the coal miners in their strike because Solidarity, Gdansk, and Wałęsa have to prove they exist. Bert Quint, CBS News, Gdansk.
The Irish Republican Army claimed responsibility tonight for what it called another execution in Northern Ireland. A British Navy officer was killed when a bomb destroyed his car in Belfast. Last Friday, a bomb killed 8 British soldiers, the deadliest attack in 6 years, and the British government is reportedly considering harsh new steps against the IRA. From London, Tom Fenton reports.
Tonight's killing brings the number of violent deaths in Northern Ireland this year to 70, 9 of them in the last 3 days. The Irish Republican Army believes it is winning what it calls the long war against the British.
I think that there are IRA volunteers out every day trying to put bits in boxes.
The grief and anger generated by the killings are creating a political problem for Prime Minister Thatcher. Almost 20 years of the long war have claimed nearly 3,000 lives. It now ties up some 30,000 members of the security forces. Recent attacks by the IRA on the British mainland and in Europe suggest that the long war is far from over.
I think that our struggle is dug in, well dug in.
After this weekend's massacre, the Northern Ireland Secretary had little to offer.
We will look at any measure that can help eradicate this evil.
There is already a sophisticated surveillance network in Northern Ireland, helicopters, hidden cameras, and not-so-hidden cameras. And in spite of massive arms finds by security forces, still more arms are getting through to the IRA, some like the new deadly Semtex explosive, courtesy of Colonel Gaddafi. Military movement on the ground is increasingly a problem, so more and more the Army travels by air. The security forces' greatest fear now is the suspected presence somewhere in the Irish countryside of a Soviet-made SAM-7 anti-aircraft missile. In an attempt to stop the terrorists penetrating the border from the Republic of Ireland, the British Army is constructing a massive chain of forts across Northern Ireland. Talk of a political solution to the problem appears to have gone away. The IRA is now resorting to its old tactic of killing soldiers. For a while, only Catholics and Protestants were filling the graveyards. Now that British soldiers are filling them again, Mrs. Thatcher is under pressure to act. She was guarded about her plans today, saying only, "You do not tell your enemy what you are going to do." What is clear tonight is Mrs. Thatcher has taken personal charge of policy on Northern Ireland, and decisions will be made here at Downing Street. The Army says it knows who the IRA terrorists are. The problem is convicting them. Mrs. Thatcher is considering new legal measures to get those convictions, even if that means suspending some civil rights in Northern Ireland. Tom Fenton, CBS News, London.
At least 900 people are now believed dead in the earthquake that struck yesterday along the border of India and Nepal. Officials in Nepal say that 50,000 homes were destroyed in the border region. Most of the remaining buildings were cracked. Governments of both countries called in troops and military helicopters to help in the rescue efforts. 4 East Germans, including a woman, are safe in West Berlin after they climbed the Berlin Wall and then swam nearly 100 yards across a polluted river. An amateur cameraman taped the scene from the western shore. An East German patrol boat came after the refugees, but then backed off as people on the western side helped the swimmers up to the bank. The woman escapee was slightly injured. She told West German police she was 3 months pregnant.
After day, more people depend on Subaru wagons than any imported wagon in America. And with good reason. They're reliable and durable. In fact, if Subaru didn't make your life easier...
Honey, is dinner ready?
Who would?
Get up to $1,500 cash back or 4.9 financing on a Subaru.
You build a house with wood and nails, but a home you build with love. Soon the Hansons will raise their children here. Put pictures of them up on these walls and see their oldest coming down these stairs, going on her first stage. That's why only one paint will ever be good enough for this home. Benjamin Moore. They wouldn't use anything less, not on something that means this much. Would you?
When something means so much, see your Benjamin Moore dealer.
Quaker State with QSX. How do you make a motor oil this good? Testing, testing, testing.
Quaker State quality. We don't just talk about it, we live by it.
The big Q stands for quality. Always has, always will.
When it comes to buying a laxative, I would buy Dulcolax.
Mary Goldie talks about Dulcolax.
It's predictable. It's very gentle.
Dulcolax, tablets and suppositories.
I would not use anything but Dulcolax because it works.
The first wave of some 1,200 soldiers left Fort Lewis, Washington today to relieve firefighters in Yellowstone National Park. Firefighters are weary after weeks on the line battling blazes that have scorched an estimated 350,000 acres in the park. But even where it's not in flames, Montana is so drained by the summer drought now that a battle is shaping up between ranchers and fishermen. John Blackstone has that story.
Makeshift dams blocking rivers show a growing desperation for water in Montana. Ranchers use rocks, bales of hay, and plastic sheets to divert streams into parched fields. The water keeps a few fields green, but the dry riverbeds left behind have renewed a debate over who owns the water.
Water rights are private property rights. They are actually owned.
Ranchers have argued over water rights since the West was open, but now fishermen have joined the argument, along with those who have built a $100 million a year tourist industry on Montana's wild trout streams.
This is a national resource. It is the best trout fishery in the lower 48, bar none.
But with the trout dying in near-empty streams, there is a growing movement to change more than a century of Western water law that gives ranchers first use.
Montana's only growing economic sector is tourism.
This week, the state begins studying proposals to change the system of water rights. On one side are ranchers like Rick Sandrew, this drought year getting only half the hay crop of a normal year.
So we have to irrigate. We don't get enough rain to grow a crop.
On the other side are fishing guides who have seen their business dry up along with the streams.
People that have fished with us for years, that we have to be honest, we have to tell them there isn't enough water.
The ranchers have largely prevailed in earlier battles to change water rights, but this year's drought is helping marshal forces against them.
Most people in this state fish. Most people in this state do not raise hay.
The drought may be forcing another step in the evolution of the West, rights that ranchers have held since Montana was settled being lost to changing times. John Blackstone, CBS News, Wolf Creek, Montana.
6 Cuban-American men were indicted by a federal grand jury in Miami today, charged with shipping weapons to the Nicaraguan Contras and running a private training camp for Contra mercenaries in Florida. The Justice Department says the operation had no connection with the Reagan administration.
After flying so many aircraft, I'm not easily impressed with car performance. Then I drove the Cutlass Supreme pace car at the Indy 500. I was impressed.
In USAC tests, Cutlass Supreme out-cornered the BMW 325 and braked better than the Ford Thunderbird LX. And the Cutlass Supreme costs a whole lot less.
So I got 3 of them. Hey, I got 2 kids, boys.
And now Oldsmobile will buy the air conditioning for you when you buy a 1988 Cutlass Supreme by September 28th.
Looking for whole wheat total?
Or shredded wheat.
You'll need 12 boxes to equal the vitamin and mineral nutrition in just 1 box of Total. No other cereal has more.
I think I'll have Total, sweetheart. Total.
If it's whole wheat Total, it's Total Nutrition.
I've been writing a lot of stories about aspirin lately, but if you think you've heard all there is about aspirin, think again. Clinical tests on headaches show there's a better aspirin formula. It's Anacin. Listen. The tests show that compared to regular strength aspirin, Anacin provides a more effective level of headache relief. Better relief. The latest good news about aspirin is Anacin.
Anacin, a better aspirin formula.
Great news. I don't need surgery for my hemorrhoids. The doctor said they're not that serious. He said use Preparation H.
Preparation H helps shrink swelling of tissues as it often relieves pain and itching for hours.
Aren't you glad you didn't need surgery?
Preparation H.
Well, the British royal family named the baby today. The 2-week-old daughter of Prince Andrew and Sarah is called Beatrice Elizabeth Mary. Princess Beatrice is named after the 9th and last child of Queen Victoria. This is a big summer for Hollywood. At the box office, one recent weekend business was up 18% over the same weekend a year ago. And all this comes as some movie makers are taking a serious look at a major social problem they used to regard as a laughing matter. David Browning reports.
I am Arthur.
Yeah, what are you drinking?
Scotch, would you like some?
When Arthur first stumbled on the screen 7 years ago, the movie was a huge hit. Now, Arthur 2 is out.
Hello, my beauty.
But the reviews have been terrible, and there are no lines at the box office.
We're not laughing at it anymore. We don't see people using intoxication, getting drunk, getting high as funny stuff anymore.
Matter of fact, the Hollywood trend these days is toward movies about the dangers of booze and drugs.
I'm an alcoholic and a drug addict.
Clean and Sober stars Michael Keaton as a young man trying to break a cocaine habit. The message, says the director, is simple.
I don't think you can dig a hole deep enough that you can't climb out of a step at a time. It's hard, but it can be done.
White Girls, street slang for cocaine, is another anti-drug movie in the works.
It's just for recreational use.
But by far the most controversial is the film being made of Wired, the book about comedian John Belushi's life and death. The book named many stars involved in the drug scene with Belushi. The movie names no names, but still makes Hollywood nervous.
There's been a small group of very important people in L.A.
who have not wanted this picture to be made. Some of his friends, some of his business associates, some of his family.
It was Belushi's death from an overdose 6 years ago that turned the spotlight on one of Hollywood's worst-kept secrets, drug use behind the scenes in movies and TV. And despite the examples set by stars who've overcome their addiction, Elizabeth Taylor, Stacy Keach, Richard Dreyfuss among them, it is a problem that persists today.
It's everywhere. It's behind the camera. It's with the producers, the directors, the actors, etc.
Ray Sharkey can agree with that. He's an actor with a major part in Wired. He nearly died from heroin, the beast, he calls it, before going straight.
The beast is very patient. The beast waits and waits and waits. And then just shuts the lights when you least expect it. Just when you're saying, that'll never happen to me.
Films do reflect what's going on culturally.
Susan Newman, the daughter of actor Paul Newman, has worked at drug education in Hollywood since her brother Scott died of an overdose 10 years ago. She hopes that the permissive days when filmmakers were accused of condoning drug use, Easy Rider, Up in Smoke, that those days are largely gone. But she thinks Hollywood now has a responsibility to avoid making drug rehabilitation look too easy.
Show the struggle. You're talking about years of pulling it back together. You're talking about slipping. You're talking about they may get their job back, but they're not making the same bucks they made. You're talking about the wife who says, I'm really thrilled you're better now, honey, but I can't forgive you the last 5 years, so I'm out of here.
One's too many and 100's not enough.
Of course, movies have tackled addiction before, from The Lost Weekend in 1945 to The Man with the Golden Arm in 1956 to Days of Wine and Roses in 1962. What's different this time is the realization of how widespread the problem really is on both sides of the camera. David Browning, CBS News, Hollywood.
And that's the news. I'm Bob Schieffer, sitting in tonight for Dan Rather. Good night.
Tickets for Webb.
We interrupt this purchase for a reminder.
Here we go.
There's another decision worth entertaining.
Very smart.
Choosing the card that actually pays you cash. Cash back for every charge. The Discover card.
I'm starved.
It pays to Discover, the card that pays you back.
You're on the road to the top. There's no time to stop. You're gonna make your dreams come true. Here's your address for success, Park Avenue. It's your room with the view. It's your run to command. Every street feels like Park Avenue. The great American road belongs to Buick.
Save up to $1,400 on Buick's Electra Limited Sedan.
I just got dentures, but it hasn't slowed me down.
Start to be the 45, want to hear 45, 45.
Fix-It and forget it. Fix-It and helps fix loose spots for a strong hold that lasts longer than any leading cream.
Two, I hear 25, want to hear 25, 25.
Use Fix-It and forget it.
Post makes the only bran flakes with zip-pack freshness to keep their high-fiber, best taste fresh longer. I zip when I should have do that.
Post natural bran flakes with zip-pack freshness.
Zippity-yay.
I'm Harry Smith.
I'm Erin Moriarty. Tomorrow, Andre Agassi, America's fastest rising tennis star.
Also, Olivia Newton-John, tomorrow on CBS This Morning.
This is CBS.
I'm John Lindgren, filling